And we also have our panelists. Diana Dennis is a U.S. Army veteran and a national advocate and activist on women veterans issues and lead administrator of the social media service Women Who Serve. This is a phenomenal organization that's doing a lot to bring the issues of women forward so that we can address them as a nation, which we should be. Today's discussion, we have the 2021 two U.S. Marine Corps veteran VA women trailblazers, and I know that, Diana, you work with women who are phenomenal every day, and, so maybe you can lead us into the discussion. What should we know about what's going on with the veterans you are talking about?
Well, nice to be with you today.
Yes.
As always, the two women that I wanted to talk about today are among the trailblazers selected by the Department of Veterans Affairs nationally as trailblazers to be honored and recognized. And I selected two of the Marine women who I personally know and respect and think are just amazing in the things that they do each and every day. Sharon Rabina West is actually out of the state I live in, of Nebraska, and she is on the state Veterans Council, and she pushes a lot on women veterans issues, and she also works for the VA, and she is up in Omaha and fighting every day for women veterans and to make sure they get the proper care when they come into the VA, when they're dealing with benefits, when they're dealing with cemetery services. And she also is with several of the state organizations and national organizations. And she teaches writing, and she's a published author as well. She could not be with, I'm spending a bit of time here because Sharon couldn't be with us today.
Yeah.
Her mother had emergency surgery yesterday, and she's at home with her, and she just couldn't take the risk of stepping away to do the show. And so I just wanted to say she also was selected last year for the state of Nebraska for the statewide selection for Women in Power, and she did a TED Talk that was phenomenal on sexual violence. So I wanted to bring that out about her because she's not going to be here. She won't promote herself. I generally have to drag it out of her. So
that's a true military person.
I did want to. Yeah, she's a hero, and T. Marie Hannibal is a hero and a personal hero of mine. Well, she has written a national bestseller called The Warrior Code, and she's done a lot of work and continues to do work on service after life in uniform. She's a retired Marine, and she has done. When Colin Kaepernick, my God, I can't speak today, when he kneeled, she jumped ahead of it, and she took a huge amount of heat, and she said, when people kneel, they're kneeling before God. Mm-hmm. And they are taking a stand about racism, and she has been taking a big stand on race issues in America. And I believe that we need to honor our heroes when they stand up for things other people will not. Mm-hmm. And T has done a tremendous amount of work in this arena. She's also doing a national event to bring out key aspects in the Warrior Code in a retreat in Hawaii this year. And I'm just super proud of her and all the work she does. She's also an entrepreneur. This woman is incredible. And when she's taken heat and people beat her down, she keeps getting back up. And as I've said to her in the past in little snippets of messaging and things on Facebook, it's like, you don't need those people who treat you bad and walk away and then try to show up when things go well. You just stick with the ones who stay with you. And she is just amazing. And T is on the line, and I'm thrilled to have her with us today. T, it's nice to have you on board.
Fantastic. I'll condole, our prayers and best wishes to go out to Sharon, for her mom. And, we believe in prayer. So I just want to make sure that she realizes that, this place is always open to her. and to take care of her family. And I'm honored to even have her name mentioned on the show from what you've been telling us about her. So if you want to go ahead with T, we can go forward with that.
Very much so. This is all that last part was about T, and
yes.
And she's amazing. T, do we have you here?
Hey, how are you?
I'm fantastic, and I'm so thrilled that you were able to do the show today.
Not a problem at all. Not a problem. I'm happy to be here.
And T's also on the national speakers list. I mean, she's phenomenal. She's absolutely phenomenal. Tell us some of your big pieces out of the Warrior Code, the things that you impress to other people to embrace and support themselves with as they move forward.
So my book, The Warrior Code, 11 Principles to Unleash the Badass Inside of You, it talks about just that, like so strong in the face of adversity and just even when you are being told that you're not enough, you're not doing good enough, or you shouldn't be talking out on these issues, doing it anyway. I think that's the most important thing I like to harp on. And the most important thing that I speak on in the Warrior Code is just doing it anyway.
Okay,
even if your voice shakes, doing it anyway.
Okay, you turn your radio down a bit because it's giving us a little bit of feedback.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better. Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm so sorry.
Okay, and so go ahead, go for further with what you were saying because that's
really
interesting.
Definitely that. I think, like she spoke earlier, my work I felt is not just because I'm a veteran. I think it's more because it's the right thing to do. It just so happens to be from a veteran, and I'm very proud of the work I've done. We've done everything I was a part of Women's March. So I was a part of the efforts of bringing all the veterans together during Women's March. And light of having an administration then that was kind of shunning and turning its back on many of its citizens, we had veterans at the forefront saying, no, this is not what we're going to do. This is not what we served up to be a part of. So just being that strong voice of many of the voiceless right now has just been something that I've just kind of felt my calling in recent years.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I know you had to sell your book, the Warrior Code, but can you go into any of the principles? You know, what do you think people need to know about what you've written? Why is it so important for them to read it?
I think for me, I'll talk about my favorite principle. I always like to do that. That's a tidbit that I like to put out there. Okay. Find your tribe is my favorite one. When I deployed, I talk about my period of being the only female in an all-male unit deploying to Iraq and not knowing what I'm getting myself into as a single mom, and having to kind of have your tribe that had your back. So I talk about all the ups and downs of being at home, being away from home, and having to not be segregated away from the men and actually having to be in the trenches with the men and still having those tribe members and those battles who had my back through it all. So that's a lot you can look forward to in the book. And also just how to really kick ass in life, in this thing we call life. I think we go through life as veterans, and many of us don't even like to claim the title of a U.S. veteran. So trying to break that stigma and being proud of the service we serve and how we serve, whether you're female or male, because a lot of females don't even like to recognize their service. So, of course, breaking that stigma down is very important as well.
Why do you think that is? Why don't they want to acknowledge their belonging to the service?
I think in the light of so much sexual assault and so many things that women have to face, once they turn that chapter and they move on to that new chapter, a lot of women just want to just wipe the slate clean, so to speak, and just kind of forget their service because of whatever hardships they went through.
And there's a lot of things that Tia's done to elevate women who have, they've kind of set their service aside and they've decided to go forward without acknowledging that very important piece of their life. So she has created a whole Queens network, which is just amazing. Tell the audience about the Queens network. She has just done this amazing thing for black women that I'm amazed by it and thrilled by it. I wish I could join it. I'm a little light for that part of the show, but it's phenomenal, and I promote it all the time because it's something so important, especially when so many of my friends right now are trying to protect their children at a time when it's dangerous. Just to walk out of the house if you're a young black man.
Oh yes.
Absolutely. What I've created was the Black Queens Matter movement, and I created it back in 2017, and it just started out as a safe space for us to speak on what was going on and the injustices that we saw play out, and it's kind of grown now to 20,000 active members across the United States. Mm-hmm. We now have chapters in 20 cities where we go out and we support each other, we network. Every last Saturday of the month, we get together for what's called a Black Queens Brunch, and we support black restaurants. So we put our monies back into our communities by showing up strong in 20s and 30s to these cities and these black-owned restaurants to, again, publicize and promote and put the monies back into our communities. So thank you for that. I try to remember everything, and I often forget.
and the thing that's cool about this is that a lot of these women are veterans, and it's
absolutely.
It's so amazing that she has integrated this this civilian and military and veterans women's network across the country, so that black women are crossing these communities and getting to know each other that were not engaging before. And it is an amazing thing that she's done. That's when I say I'm so proud of T. It's like when she keeps doing these things, it's like, oh my God, look what she's done now. So yeah,
fantastic, wow.
And this is why she's a trailblazer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I try to do something that I can leave a lasting mark in my community. So whether it's through Black Queens Matter or my nonprofit Operation Heroes Connect, something that's going to be a positive, lasting force in the community long after I'm gone.
Well, that's fantastic.
Tell them some more about the Warrior Code.
Mm-hmm.
So the Warrior Code. So basically the Warrior Code is based off my life growing up on the south side of Chicago. Okay. And it unfolds as you get to walk through my life, but each chapter, while you're being told what I went through in that area of my life, whether it was ending up in gangs or ending up in the system, it's actually forcing you to do your own self-work and yourself to kind of look within as far as what can you do different in your life. These are the things I went through at this age. What are you currently going through now that you feel like you can't get past? So it has the self-work at the end of each chapter that walks you through what to do to make you a better warrior. And again, unleash that badass inside of you.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's amazing because T applied all these principles in the military, and she was enlisted, and she blasted through the ranks and did an amazing job. And when we were going through the selections for Trailblazers, the group that was dealing with the northeastern United States, I had the southeastern, and the group that was dealing with the northeastern United States had a big group like I did down in southeastern U.S., And, I mean, T rose right to the top. There was no question.
Wow.
And so I think that when people know that, this is something that happens every 2 years, and we get a lot of folks that go through. I was in the first group of Trailblazers, and, that was a pretty stellar group that went through, and I think that this group that came through this year was a stellar group that went through, and we're going to see that every year. And it's amazing the people that have been honored, and I think that it would be really nice if people would go to va.com to the Trailblazers for 2021 and take a look at the people that were selected to represent women across this country, because it's a phenomenal group. Dee Quarenta, that does the Northeast Women Veterans out of Florida, was selected. We just have a lot of really, really amazing women, and T is among them. They are just really great people that have resumes as long as your sleeve.
I am truly honored to be a part of the group. I truly tell you that. It's an honor.
Yeah,
it's such a thrill to see all these women and to see all the work that people are doing, and the striking amount of collaboration and cooperation, and the inner working among groups to help one another and to make a difference. Not stomping on each other, but helping one another and sharing information across groups so that people can get assistance. So if they transition out of the service, that somebody says, I'm getting out in California, but I'm moving to the East Coast, who do I talk to? Or I'm going to Chicago, who do I talk to? I'm going to Texas. Then we just start linking them with folks. I'm going to Florida. I'm going to this part or this part. Yeah, and getting people linked with resources, and it's taken a lot of years to put things together, because one thing I can tell you, Cliff, Damon, is that we are not, we don't get the money the men's groups get. They do not support women veterans in the same way. And I can tell you, this just happened to me. I had to go into the VA on Wednesday, and because I got hurt, and I went in for treatment, and 2 men in a row, the guy who was doing the COVID screening and the guy in the ER doing the screening, asked me for my husband's name and last four. And I looked at him and I said, dude, I'm standing right here.
Wow.
That's really bizarre. I handed him my VA card, and this is like the 1,000th time in the last 45 years. If we can't get the VA to acknowledge that women are veterans, how are we supposed to get the general public to acknowledge this? T's out there every day trying to get people to recognize their service after uniform and the work that they're trying to do in communities, and we can't get funding when we can't even get the VA to acknowledge we're veterans when we walk in the doors with our ID card.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous, you made me feel like I was going back to the 1800s when you said that, the
kind of feels like that,
Yeah. It truly does. It truly does.
And this happens to all of us. This is like, when people go, it was bad in the 1980s, and I said in the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s, and now it's 2021 and it hasn't changed.
And you said, both of you said something that I thought was really important to note. I'm doing a lot of Zoom talks, right, about COVID-19. So I'm working with the state, and I'm working with, some different medical organizations, that kind of thing. And one of the things that I prepared a slide, and it was about, the contributions of African American and women to sciences. And when I got to a point, I had 10 people on the slide. And actually, one person who was on there, she was actually the founder of making a global model of the Earth, which our GPS system is based on. That was the model they used to create the GPS system. And as I was looking at that, the thing that struck me was people were saying, well, I said, well, I put 10 people on the slide, but I had a problem. And they were saying, what's that? I said, where was I going to put the other 10,000 faces I saw? And so women have been doing things throughout the history of our military and this country. And there are so many people out there that we need to recognize. And so, what do you think we need to be doing to make this more of a common day experience for people, like you said, in the VA when they're checking people in, or people who are just working with companies that can see a woman as being a very, very strong leadership role within a company. So it
would be helpful right off the top if they would just quit thinking that, well, we hired one black woman, so we've got woman and black covered, so we don't have to do any more.
Yeah, right.
They've got to hire a bunch of women. They've got to hire a bunch of black women. They got to hire a bunch of Hispanic women. They got to hire a bunch of women because they're eminently qualified. Black women are holding more PhDs than any other group in the country. And, I mean, it's like, come on, let's pull it together. And this is everywhere. More women that get out of the military get higher education than any men that get out of the military. And they're working their tails off. And then when they go to the VA for employment, they're more than happy to hire them to do secretarial, but they don't want to hire them in the higher levels. So why aren't they hiring our women vets who are across they're in the Rainbow Coalition of Colors, and they're in the Rainbow Coalition of the LGBTQ community. Why aren't they hiring them? They are masters, they are PhDs, they've got a massive amount of education, and they're not bringing them on board, so I'm just kind of wondering why. And I just think that they just are not giving them the opportunity, and that people have to push more for that. There would be better representation, better training, and there really needs to be.
Okay, we're running out of time.
At the end of the day, representation matters. As a women vet, if I see more women vets when I go into the VA, guess what? I'm going to be more proud. I'm going to be prouder of my service. I'm going to be able to articulate what my needs are because I have someone that's dealing with or has been there or has worn the uniform. So all of these things matter at the grand scheme of things.
Yes. Okay, well, I want to thank both of you for being on. I always wonder if we have enough, things to talk about in a session. And then when I have people like you on, it goes way beyond. I think we need another 2 hours. But we have to have you back. And I just want to thank you, our partner, Women Who Serve. This is something that people need to know more about, as you were mentioning. Diana, going to va.com to read about these trailblazing, amazing women in the 2021 awards and prior. I'm sure they have a historical log somewhere. But this has been